love the chase and the hunt, and I set the pace when I'm running. I always take what I want and I always give it 100. Don't need a bank, no I'm funded. Play the game like it's nothing. I'm always thankful for something. Don't take for granted, stay humble. Now wake up, it's time to look at the enemy.
Hi everybody, Ricky here from Behind the Bars TV. A massive thank you to all my subscribers. It's going up really quick at the minute. I'm up to 16,900, nearly at that 17k mark. Hopefully get up to the 20k mark. I would love to reach it by the new year. So if you are watching the content and you're not already a subscriber, hit that button. It's free of charge. Help me grow the channel so I can get bigger and better guests on in the future. But today I'm going to speak about what's it like in prison at Christmas time. Because Christmas is quick approaching, and a lot of you will probably be wondering what happens at Christmas with the inmates, because the majority of the people that are watching this channel have never been to prison. So I will do a little rundown about what happens in prison at Christmas time, because I've spent 6 Christmases in prison myself, and I can't tell you, it's not a very nice time being in prison away from your family and loved ones. But I will say, in the prisons that I've been in at this time of year, I know a lot of you are sitting at home, have got no heating on because of the gas bills and etc. But in prison at this time of year, they take the piss, they actually crank the heating up full belt. So you're absolutely sweating, you're sitting in your boxer shorts. I mean, I've just recently done 2 Christmases in prison myself. In 2019 and 2020, and when I landed in Durham on E-Wing, the pads are tiny. You can put your hands out like that and touch the walls. It's like, what, 10 foot by 6 foot or 12 foot by 6 foot, and there's 2 of you living in there. The conditions are cramped, and the pipes, they've got 2 big metal pipes, I'd say around about that thick, big metal pipes running all the way through the wings from one end to the other, and these are scalding hot. I mean, they're that hot when you can't even touch them. They burn your hands. The only thing they're ideal for is when you're washing your clothes in the sink and you put them on the pipes. Takes about 10 minutes to dry. But when you land on E-Wing in Durham, the feelings that you're getting at first anyway, because you're in prison, you're new to it, or if you're just coming back in, you don't know what's ahead, you don't know what wing you're going to be moved to, you're full of anxiety, your head's all over the place, and then the temperature in the pad is like being in a sauna. The pair of you sweating, it's stinking, you hardly ever get in a shower. You're lying there in your boxer shorts, but the feeling that you get is horrendous because it's that hot you feel like running out and getting fresh air, but you're locked in so you can't. But so at Christmas time, the feeling in the prison is a bit mixed. It depends what prison you're in, because when I've been in Franklin prison, what we'd done when we were in there was we would get pissed at Christmas time, and to do that was actually a massive task, because in Franklin they've got what they call hooch dogs. So they've trained the sniffer dogs to sniff out hooch, because some of the places that the inmates had to stash the hooch was quite ingenious. We used to put it in bin liners and put it underneath the lockers, so that, I mean, the lockers had a gap under like that, about 6 inches, not even that, maybe it's about 4 inches. So the screws wouldn't think of looking under there, because you couldn't fit anything under. You would think, well, you've got to keep hooch in bottles or keep them in big containers, you can't fit them under there. But those of you sitting there thinking, well, you're just telling the fucking screws where the hooch is in the prisons, the screws know all of this. It's nothing that they've never heard of before. I'm talking about 16 years ago, so the screws know each and every hiding hole in the fucking prison. So it's nothing new. So don't be sitting there thinking, oh shit, he's telling them where the hooch is. But yes, getting back to that. So also in Franklin, because of the type of inmates that were in there and the length of the sentence they were doing, we used to look forward to Christmas, to having a drink with each other, just to forget about the outside world and have our own little party at Christmas time. And one of my guests I'm going to be having on soon, Kevin Lane, we're going to be talking about this, because me and Kev's had a couple of hooch parties together whilst I was in Franklin with him. And another place we used to keep it in Franklin was in the freezers, because we had freezers where we kept all of our food. And that was another ingenious place, but obviously after a while the screws got onto it, especially when they brought the hooch dogs on. There was hardly zero. I mean, I've spoken to people in there recently, and they're saying there's none of that now, because the screws know every single hidey hole. They know, they've got the hooch dogs on, that'll sniff. I mean, hooch stinks, it's really strong, so a dog is gonna sniff that out from fucking pads away. But getting back to it, in Franklin, like I say, it's different to the other prisons, because in there you've got the time to do it as well. And that's where we used to have, like I've mentioned, parties at Christmas time. And there was one time, there was about, gotta have been about between 12 and 15 of us all in the same pad. We had a big bucket of hooch in the middle of the floor. Everyone was just dipping their cups in, lashing it back. And we were having a jolly time at the time. We thought we were, but looking back, you weren't having a good time. You were blanking out. You were blanking the times out because you were away from your family. You were doing what you could at the time to survive prison. And that's what we done to survive it. We got pissed at Christmas. And then, like I say, that was only in Franklin. When I went back in this time, I didn't drink, I didn't do any of that, because I'm obviously in a different mindset. I was just immature back then, still in my 20s in Franklin. Fucking hell. You've seen the documentary that I was in, and I've explained the mindset that I was in at the time. When I went to Franklin, it was just like, how can I explain it? I've explained it in a couple of ways when I've been on podcasts and that before, but to me, it felt as if, wow, I've made it. I'm in the fucking biggest maximum security prison in the country, in the northeast, and I'm with the biggest, roughest, toughest gangsters in the country, and I was loving it at the time. That was the mindset I was in. Obviously different now, and I'm teaching everyone different. I'm actually going into the schools in January, talking to kids that have gone off the rails, that they were under the police radar, trying to give them a bit of education to stop them going down the route I did. But getting back to the video, in Christmas, I'll talk about the food, what you get at Christmas time. The food is a little bit better. Again, depending on what prison you're in, food is absolutely disgusting. It is what it looks like in the films. It's slop. But there is the odd few prisons that got the exception where the food isn't too bad. But on Christmas Day, on the morning time, or for dinner time, sorry, because you don't even get out for breakfast anymore. At dinner time, you get a breakfast, you get a full cooked breakfast. And then on the afternoon meal, because dinner time meal is around about 12 o'clock, and because the work weekend hours in prisons at Christmas time, and by weekend hours what I mean is on a weekend in prison you get banged up at 4 o'clock in the afternoon or 5 o'clock. Like I've mentioned, it depending on what prison you're in, but it's normally 4 o'clock bang up, and then you get let out for your tea, different wings at a time or different spurs at a time. And on the tea time, that was when you used to get the dinner, like you get a cooked dinner. But again, it varies in different prisons. They do it the other way around. You might get a Christmas dinner on the dinner time, then the afternoon you'll get like a cooked breakfast. So you get 2 hot meals a day on Christmas. And you also get a little pack, like a little novelty pack, which has got maybe it's a packet of crisps in and a chocolate bar and a can of pop. But everyone looks forward to these because a lot of the lads in prison have got nothing, and the ones that get a little bit of money, they spend it on vapes or they spend it on drugs, and they don't keep it for novelty items such as crisps, cans of pop and chocolate bars. So each and every prisoner would get something like this. All will have been in the prisons where you would only get an orange, an apple and a little Kit Kat, and that was your treat. That was your Christmas present, a little apple and an orange. So that's what you would get, and like I say, you would all get banged up at 4 o'clock and you would go back to your pad and you would try and forget about the outside world, and you would just you would think about your family members back home, but it was a bit traumatic and upsetting thinking about them, especially if you've got kids. So you would just sit and watch the TV. Obviously there's loads of Christmas films on over Christmas, and you would just try and have a normal day as possible, unless you're like the other lads who were running around Not so much hooch because it was hard to do it in a lot of the prisons now, but a lot of them would be taking spice or on subbies. They were taking tablet prescription medication just to try and forget about the day. And in prison they call it having a day out. I've heard lads mention, say, oh, are you having a day out? And having a day out means getting off your head and getting outside of the prison, leaving prison from your head. But like I've mentioned, in Franklin, it was a different type of atmosphere at the time. And we had a good time. We went back to our parties a lot of the time. We're fucking either mortal drunk off your heads, but you would pass out, wake up the next day with a starting headache. But Christmas was over and done with, so you just looked to try and get the year out of the way and start a new year. Because if you're doing a big sentence and you're serving years, you just want them years to dwindle down until you're eventually coming up to your parole hearing or release date. And everyone just wanted to get these days out of the way, because Christmas, like I've mentioned, is a horrible time in prison, especially when you're phoning back home speaking to your family and you don't want to sound down and upset because your family members are at home and they're trying to enjoy themselves as much as possible. Obviously it's hard for them. I know I'm just speaking about the prisoners, but your families back home are the ones that are suffering the most, because when they're sitting there round the Christmas table and you're missing from it, it's a big piece of their heart missing as well. So that is also another deterrent for when you're sitting in prison at Christmas time, not to go back knowing how much you've missed your family and what you've put them through at Christmas time. But yeah, that's all you had to look forward to in Christmas, was a little novelty pack. But the Christmas dinners, a lot of the time, it'll end up coming into the local papers, because it always does. One of the screws will take the Christmas menu out of prison, because you do get little Christmas menus printed off that look appetizing, they look like a 3-course meal, and you've got to pick what you have for dinner. You might have pork and apple sauce, turkey and stuffing, or beef and gravy. And these are the things you've got to pick from. You can pick potatoes, you can pick your veg, or you pick rice, or if you're a vegetarian you get vegan sausages, because you do get that option as well, and the Muslims get the halal option. And like I've mentioned, it does look appetizing, and the screws normally smuggle a menu out and hand it to the local papers. The local papers put it in and say prisoners are eating better than pensioners in homes. But believe you me, they're not, because when you get it, it's absolutely revolting. The food is being cooked in the morning time and it's been left in the big trolleys, because each wing gets a trolley designated to them with their food in, and it's cooked and put in the trolley, and the trolley's left lying there for 6 hours. Obviously the heated trolleys to keep the heat in, but by the time you get them, the food is absolutely revolting. And this is the luxury meals that you're getting at Christmas, what they're saying in the papers, which is absolute dog shite. And you wouldn't feed it to your grandma, never mind your fucking cat. But so that's what happens in prison at Christmas time. Normally on the weekends and stuff, there's a lot of lads shouting out the windows, talking to each other, shouting on. There's a lot of activity goes on sometimes, like out the windows shouting on and stuff. But on Christmas, it's normally like a somber moment. It's quiet. There's not a lot of people shouting on, which you wouldn't when you're in there at that time of year, because it's not a very nice place to be. But I think I've went on quite enough about that. But if there's anything else you would like us to talk about, drop it in the comments. If there's any of you would like to come on my show and talk about your experiences of prison, when you've come out, you've changed your mindset, you're living a normal life now, give us a shout, come on, we'll get you on so you can share your stories. But watch out for my latest podcast, which I've done with a multi-millionaire who is Lewis Raymond Taylor. Look him up on Instagram, he's been in Forbes magazine. I'm dropping that one on Sunday night at 7 p.m. So keep an eye out for it. He's now the owner of a £25 million business. He's absolutely turned his life around, and he's an absolute credit to other people that's been in that situation, and you come out and he's turned his life around, and it's a good story to listen to. But I'll leave that one there for now, people. Hope you enjoyed the content. Remember to like and subscribe. Take care.